We are going classical today, ladies and gentlemen, and the orchestra is in town tonight. But they need a low-stringed bellow sound in their ranks. No other instruments can even come close to the low rumbling sounds that the Octobass makes. And just for context, in case you've never seen it before, or maybe you have and you just need a reminder, this is the Octobass. And why is it so big and massive? Well, I guess we'll find out today. Hello! Welcome to Brainspill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and this instrument today is rather unique as it is the largest and lowest sounding string instrument there's ever been. And if this thing fell on you, I'm pretty sure you'd know about it. The Octobass is an extremely large and rare bowed string instrument that was first built around 1850 in Paris by French violin maker Jean-Baptiste Vaillant, which, as already mentioned, was made specifically for the low rumble sounds the instrument could produce. The instrument itself, while being made in the mid-1800s, was not widely adopted despite Hector Berlioz, a famous French composer, proposing that it should be. At the time, the use of the instrument was limited to Charles Gounod's work on Benedictus and the Agnus Dei. So it had some use. I mean, despite the fact that the rest of the time it would either be gathering dust in a cupboard somewhere, or you've got to somehow lug it around with you as luggage, which no one wants to do that when it's that blooming big. So, taking a look at this thing, yes, it is very big. 3 strings, and it's pretty much like a double bass, except on steroids. It's absolutely huge, in case that, if that point hasn't been driven home yet. Due to the fact that this instrument is so massive, it is able to produce sounds 1 octave lower than that of a double bass. So yeah, it's one thing for me to tell you about this instrument, but it's another to hear it in action. So as you can probably tell, it's not the fastest instrument, or by any means the most practical. It is useful in rather peculiar circumstances. I can probably imagine that 9 performances out of 10 won't probably need this within their ranks, meaning that the Octobass can probably take a back seat for most of the time. The C note played by the instrument is 16 Hz, which as a matter of fact is lower than the frequency that can be heard by humans. Which again makes you wonder what the point of making the instrument is if some other notes can't be heard properly by humans. The strings are so thick and long that the musicians simply can't play the instrument on the ground, and they have to operate a series of levers and pulleys to be able to operate clamps on the neck of the Octobass, which sets them up for certain frets in order to change the pitch on the string and to play different notes on the instrument. All seems pretty straightforward. Just to give you an idea how big this instrument is, the strings alone are so thick, when you pull a string, you can see the reverberations and vibrations in the string, which is not something you would normally see from a much thinner string, based on the fact that there is just so much of it there. Physics, yo. This, in my opinion anyway, is pretty cool because you can get an appreciation for what happens in the string family and deep down the actual physics of the string itself. You know, if you're a bit of a nerd like me. Or the fact that this just puts into perspective how goddamn big this instrument actually is. And yes, this person playing this instrument is not on the ground. Like I said, they're on a raised platform operating the pulleys and levers whilst playing the instrument. Takes some dedication and some skill. And also you probably need to be quite tall. These things are actually incredibly rare, as there aren't many in the world, with an Octobass at the Musée de la Musique, Paris, and other Octobasses that exist in collections of the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, Arizona, and a further museum in Vienna. There is another which was donated to the Montreal Symphony Orchestra in 2016, which makes them the only orchestra in the world that own an Octobass that is used in the live performances. This is only one of 4 Octobasses in the world that actually works, which isn't as easy as you might imagine. The sheer fact that you simply can't just pick this up and start playing it under normal circumstances really goes to show how impractical the instrument is, and probably the reason why it's not been more widely adopted, and more so the reason why there's only 4 in the world that you can actually play. So yeah, it's not really the most widespread appeal. Probably also why we don't consider it an integral part of the opera. The Octobass bow that is used to play the strings is also purpose-made, which is large, heavy, and simply just has to be gripped firmly when playing. Thick horsehair is used along the strings to make these sounds which had not been previously heard in a live orchestra performance for almost 150 years, until the Montreal Symphony Orchestra did a live performance including the instrument in that 2016 performance I talked about before. The performer that played the Octobass in that performance was a man called Eric Chappell, and he made a joke that he should probably get one. You know, as a joke, because who on earth is going to get that in their orchestra? I mean, look how big it is. However, the maestro had other ideas, and took it a little bit more seriously than Eric was probably hoping for. And being the unfortunate soul that proposed the idea, he had the honour of playing the instrument once they acquired it. Yes, I can imagine that we would have seen much more of the Octobass if it was the only instrument that can make sounds similar to this. Yes, whilst there's nothing really that can make sounds quite like the Octobass, there are many instruments that can come in as a substitution and make sounds in a similar pitch and range. Basically, they are instruments which are much more practical to use, like the double bass for example. The reason why these instruments are stuck around is largely because of their historical significance, and probably also due to the fact that they are so goddamn massive. And yes, while you look at videos online of the instrument being played, it does sound like an elephant passing wind, but the instrument was not made to be played by itself. It's an orchestra piece. It's meant to complement the whole ensemble and the low rumble that the orchestra may need to perform the piece in question. Hence why it sometimes has its place and really does provide that depth when listening to it being played alongside other instruments. Whilst the Octobass is a rare instrument, it is big, it is impractical, it is limited in its use, and it's only really useful in a few performances. But some people can appreciate the significance and the place that the Octobass has in an orchestra. Hence why the Montreal Symphony Orchestra managed to get their hands on one of the last few remaining items there are of the Octobass. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. Okay, so if you wanted one yourself, and I don't know why you'd want one yourself, but if you wanted one, then it would be probably possible to make one. But as you can imagine, it's probably not an easy process, and the fact that there are only 4 in the world that actually exist that work, then you're going to be pretty hard pressed. Either way, it's going to be a long and expensive endeavour, just to hear this sound. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic!